Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So, like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. Another edition of the Pick and Doms podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zhu and P-Bush. How are you guys doing?
Oh, just beautiful, man. Clocking in from St. Louis, Missouri, man. Just Chiefs fans everywhere here. I was over at the ballpark village over by the Cardinals baseball stadium, man. Just absolutely beautiful. This Philadelphia win. I never thought I'd root for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's be completely honest here, guys. But Zoo, I got to give you a bunch of credit here, man. You did predict this Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. A lot of props there. Didn't predict the correct outcome, but hey, man, you got 2 out of 2 on the participation trophy, man.
Yeah, get a nice little certificate.
Man, just what a game. What a game. I mean, this, in my opinion, I know we'll talk about it more in depth, but this rivaled his loss to the Bucks in a poor performance aspect. And I'll say this right now. I'm going to get this quote out of the way. This was his 2011 LeBron NBA Finals, man. That's what it was. This was his Jason Terry getting the best of him.
Oh, shit.
That was Patrick Mahomes this week, man. They contained him, and Vic Fangio owned Andy Reid in this matchup, man. We got to give a lot of props to the defense of Philadelphia.
Not gonna lie, man, I'm having some PTSD. As you mentioned, the Buccaneers. Because I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this, but that year I predicted Tampa Bay with Tom Brady and make it to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win. And I'm getting the exact same flashbacks from the game. Offensive line not doing their job. Obviously, Mahomes didn't get it done, so I'm getting a lot of flashbacks from that year of football. And both the games were kind of borderline. It was a mediocre game just because of the beatdown. Like, it wasn't even a competitive game. So from people that are hardcore fans who probably want a competitive game to casual fans, like, I don't think the game was all that. Like, I got 120 million viewers, but the product on the field was just nothing like the conference championship game, where obviously the Bills and Chiefs had a legendary game, and this game was like, I know I had the Chiefs, so I'm a little salty right now. I'm a little saltine cracker right now. Did not get a good night of sleep. Had some bags when I woke up post work. Like, dude, and even I had my boss, and my boss says, "Oh, Andy, you good?" Because they knew I had some money on the Chiefs. I'm like, no, I'm not good right now. Have you recovered from the game? No, I have not. I have not recovered from this game because I learned a great lesson. When you got a big 4-figure package, man, don't be greedy. I got greedy, and I respected the Eagles because I gave it was a 50-50 type game, but that's what the Vegas had. I respected the team. It wasn't like the Chiefs versus the Commanders. Then I'm like, I'm all in. They're gonna get it done against the Commanders. But this was a really, really good football team, and they showed the Chiefs that they were the better team, and they got out coached, and the quarterback outplayed the other quarterback, Jalen Hurts, in another Super Bowl appearance. Phenomenal. Outside of that interception, that was a bad interception. Dude played an awesome game, running the football, scrambling, getting first downs, throwing that deep ball. Like, Jesus Christ, it was like Jalen Hurts is really trying stuff. Like, this guy, this guy's clutch in the play. Like, he's good in the playoffs. Like, from the playoff games I've seen him play, he produces in the playoffs. So I got major props to Jalen Hurts, who got a lot of hate in the regular season this year, but he showed out that he's a playoff guy, and he got it done against this Kansas City Chiefs team where it looked like they were in a different class of teams because it was not competitive, and it was the biggest blowout in the playoffs with the Eagles. So props to the Eagles for getting it done.
Talent is pretty much the word of the Super Bowl. Again, you guys don't follow college football, but I'll just say, there's this guy, Bud Elliott, who I disagree with a lot on a lot of stuff. He does the Cover 3 podcast, and they cover a lot of college football happenings, but he always talks about the blue chip ratio. And I would wonder, and there's somebody that's probably already done this study, but a lot of these guys, of course, played high school football and in college football. I just wonder what the blue chip ratio in terms of like the 4- and 5-star talent, because a lot of the Eagles guys, it's a lot of Georgia, Alabama, maybe some Auburn, some like elite programs on that on that team with the Eagles. And I just wonder how big of the talent gap was, because it just was pretty obvious when you was looking, just stacking up the teams.
Yep.
It honestly looked like JV and varsity. Physically on the line of scrimmages was like JV and varsity. So I don't know, man. Sometimes we get into these Super Bowls and we get a game like, what really the last 2 Super Bowls, like really close games, 3-point games,
one possession games.
Sometimes we get that, and then sometimes we get like I don't want to say in terms of I don't think it's as bad as the Rams Patriots Super Bowl where it's like 13-10 because it just was low scoring. But in terms of the enjoyment, if you're just talking about overall enjoyment, I mean, nobody, unless you was the Eagles fan, there wasn't any enjoyment. So, Peebush, what was your breakdown from? You can take the Philadelphia side, Kansas City side, wherever. Just
let me tell you this right here, Sean. I enjoyed it because I had money on the Eagles. So let me just tell you that right off the bat, man. I was going over to Missouri, placed the bets right before I crossed the border, man, because it ain't illegal in Missouri yet. Absolutely beautiful. All of us sitting at the bar there, everyone was on the Eagles, just so you know. Yeah. I think a lot of people were on the Eagles in this game, partially because they were plus 100 for most of the time. I got them at plus 110 myself. But I think, there's a couple stats, I think, from this game that are eye-opening. One, got to shout out Devontae Smith, man. He's first Alabama player to actually score in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's unbelievable. I mean, to think about one of the best college football program in the last 20 years has not produced a player that has scored in the Super Bowl. I know Jalen Hurts scored, but, not necessarily drafted out of Alabama, right? Oklahoma. So a little bit of a different story there. But to me, man, this was, and I said this when we previewed it, this was Vic Fangio versus Andy Reid. And Vic Fangio, I don't know what he studied. I don't know what he did, but he did not blitz more than 4 the entire game.
Yeah.
And one of the craziest stats I've ever read is that there have only been 6 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era that have not been blitzed the entire game. None of them have won the Super Bowl. So if you have a strong enough team to rush 3 or 4 and get to the quarterback, you are going to win the game because you can completely shut down their entire offense and still manage the pocket and not allow them to be comfortable. That is, if you can do that with no matter what team you have, let alone a team that was able to somehow get back Brandon Graham from a torn tricep, get valued snaps out of him, and he's considered to be arguably the worst, quote-unquote, current pass rusher that they have, even though he is their gold captain. I mean, against the best quarterback in the league, arguably one of the best at scrambling, managing the pocket, they kept him interior. They didn't allow him to get outside. Whenever they blitzed him, they pushed him into the pocket to step through, and knowing that, sure, he might get 4, 5, 6, 7 yards on a kind of a scramble fall forward, but you weren't going to let him scramble for that first down and extend drives. And that's exactly what happened, man. I mean, I'm sorry. Another stat, 11 QBR. You know what Rex Grossman's was in 2007? A 30. Come on, man. I mean, I know Patrick Mahomes is obviously leagues and leagues and leagues beyond Rex Grossman.
Yeah.
But on an individual performance aspect, yes, his O-line failed him to an extent. But there are plenty of quarterbacks that have gotten pressure from 4 guys or 3 guys coming at them that can get the ball out sooner, that can get decisions made faster.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
There were people calling out Travis Kelce for being maybe a little lackadaisical in his route running. Everyone's kind of pointing towards that one clip where he's just kind of standing there and Mahomes is scrambling around. I mean, come on, man. I mean, at this point, it's just – I don't know if they don't have the weapons. I don't know if Andy Reid just didn't scheme well enough on the offense. It just, to me, it seems like this entire team prepared that we are not going to lose to Saquon Barkley. And they did their job.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do any other job on the entire field on any 3 phases of the game. And it blows my mind for a team that is so prepared and also very good at adjusting. They didn't make any adjustments, man. Not one.
None.
Yeah,
that's the shocking. That's probably the most shocking part. No adjustments.
Yep. Yeah, this is a team that got punched in the face, and they kept getting punched in the face. They weren't able to punch back. Like outside of the fourth quarter when the game was legitimately over. Like they had some garbage time touchdowns. It's a nice Xavier Worthy, good game for him.
Really good game.
He looked like he's a legit weapon for this Kansas City Chiefs in the future. But outside of that, it's kind of zero bright spots for this game for this Kansas City Chiefs. Because as you said it, like Saquon was the game plan to slow him down, and they did their job. 2 yards a carry, 25 carries for 57 yards. But watching the wide receivers and the tight end on the Eagles getting wide open, McDuffie was getting absolutely cooked. Devontae Smith with the deep ball.
He was. A.J. Brown.
Yeah. Like Jahan Dotson with that nice catch to that juke. Was like, wide open. He just ran straight. He just got him with the one little move. And he just ran straight out. I was like, oh my God, this secondary is absolutely getting shredded. Like A.J. Brown was just one-on-one coverage and backs arm wide open. Boom. Every single time. Because these weapons right now, they really showed that this is a team that pivoted from, okay, we're going to rely on a rushing game and let Saquon go for these 60-yard rushing touchdowns. Oh, we could throw it too. And pretty much they're like, Jalen Hurts, you're going to have to beat us to win the game. Yeah, and well, hell, he did 70 for 22, 221, 2 touchdowns. And he rushed for 72 yards and a rushing touchdown.
Yep.
Like Jalen Hurts is like obviously the tush push, he's all that, but his ability when the pocket collapses to scramble for first
Mahomes.
Yeah, he was doing exactly what Mahomes did against the Buffalo Bills. Like Jalen Hurts' ability to scramble, and this Chiefs defense could not stop him. Like obviously, Eagles have a good offensive line. Even when the offense line collapsed, he was able to extend plays out and was just making terrific decisions. Like obviously, he had that one interception, but outside of that, no more multi-interceptions or fumble. Like he played an absolutely phenomenal game, and Jalen Hurts has shown that he is actually in that elite quarterback status. Because that was like in the Super Bowl, just in the Super Bowl, this dude has been playing like a superstar in the Super Bowl. So in the biggest game, this guy shows out and doesn't really choke, and he performs even better compared to the regular season. Yep. So like Jalen Hurts, like bravo, this is your moment right now, because obviously he outplayed Mahomes, where Mahomes had like the worst game of his season. That's what happened.
Arguably career.
I think it's his career. I think this is worse than the Bucs game.
I mean, his numbers look good.
No, this is way worse than the Bucs game. I think the Bucs game, the offensive line had a lot of the injuries coming in the game. I remember that was the big thing, and obviously had no time. But this is him making terrible decisions. Yeah. Like
frustration.
Trying to force those interceptions. I'm like I was like looking from his perspective, and I saw like the Eagles guy like right there, and there's an Eagle. I'm like, some of the decision making. I'm like, what was going on? Because Mahomes is a guy, especially in the playoffs. Like I remember post the Bengals game where that was one of his worst playoff games ever, when he lost to the Bengals to get a chance to make the Super Bowl. He cleaned it up in the turnover game. Like he doesn't really get interceptions in the playoffs because that costs his team, and became more protective of the football. But in this game, I just don't know what happened. Like obviously the offense had no answers, 3 and out. Like the rushing game, like we knew the rushing game was bad, but Jesus Christ.
Nothing.
They had nothing. So they had to throw it every single time. So that made them a lot more predictable. Like Kareem Hunt, 3 carries for 9 yards. Isaiah Pacheco, 3 carries for 7 yards. Samaje Perine, 1 carry for 8 yards. Like they had 49 total rushing yards, and Mahomes had 25 of them. So they had no rushing attack. So this defense, which is an elite defense, is playing against an offense that is one-dimensional. Yep. And you're throwing the ball out, you're airing out to this team where we don't have elite receivers on it. There's no Tyreek Hill on this team.
Nope.
There's no
Rashee Rice.
There's no Rashee Rice was balling in the beginning of the year. Like Travis Kelce, we often saw a slowdown with him in the playoffs in the last couple games. He hasn't really put up vintage Travis Kelce type games. Xavier Worthy is awesome, and he's like the only bright spot. But like when you're relying on older receivers like DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Hollywood Brown, who's coming off injury, like these guys obviously are not that elite wide receiver that Mahomes needed in a passing attack that really needed it, because they had 0 rushing game. Like we saw that against the Buffalo Bills. Like the rushing game is just not that productive. And this team, like the amount of like even penalties.
Yeah.
It just felt like this is not a Kansas City Chief type game, because they don't make mistakes like this. And they looked at like every aspect of the game was just penalties going backwards, not be able to convert on 3rd downs, the offensive making mistakes that have turning the ball over, getting sacked 6 times. Oof. Like it just everything went wrong in this game. Like the thing is, even if Mahomes played a better game, I don't think they could have won because they just completely outclassed. Like this is as you mentioned, this was an ass whipping. This is Tom the Cap. This is him just whooping ass on Jerry. Like Jesus Christ, this was just
literally
predator versus prey.
Yeah,
and they got eaten up. Like watching that first half, I couldn't believe my eyes. Like when it was like 10-0, I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's 10-0.
Yeah.
It's classic.
That pick six.
Even the
17-0, still was believing.
I was
still thinking
even the 17-0, I was like, ooh, I'm getting a little nervous.
I doubled
down. They go down, they score a touchdown, 10-point game. But that pick six by Cooper Digi, I don't know who this guy. This guy's a beast. Jesus Christ.
You don't know who he is?
Oh, yeah.
Who he is? Man, he's more like Gene Cooper. Let me tell you, man.
22-year-old guy.
I saw that.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Like,
he's an athlete for sure. He's a punt returner, which I found out.
Dude, you got to, you know what? I'll just tell you this right now, man. Go watch his high school basketball highlights.
Oh, I saw his highlights.
There you go.
He's a freak. Oh, I saw his highlights. I was like, I got to know
42-inch, man.
I saw Cooper Digi. This guy's a freak athlete, and making that play, like that pick six, I thought that was a nail in the coffin because 24-0, like unless he pulled a Tom Brady, come back 28-3, that was, I still don't know how they came back. Like 24-0, like based on that offense.
17-0 after the pick. The bad one.
The Braun one was the.
It was the Bond one that.
Yeah.
That allowed, AJ Brown to get his touchdown.
Yeah, it is
huge. And honestly, let's be honest, that's huge just for the passing game, right? I know he had the great Jahan Dotson throw, but just to get in the end zone from a passing play for Jalen Hurts' own confidence, right? That made
and to calm AJ Brown down.
Because he was wilding on the sideline. On the sideline, man. He's still on the sideline. It didn't matter. So man. I mean, I was just shocked. I wasn't surprised. I was shocked.
Yeah. If you're acting like this was not like, if I get if you're Eagles fan, you're saying you're not shocked, but if anybody who's just either betting on it, which you could say you're not shocked because you could be betting on the Eagles, but even if you was placing bet on this, like it's shocking how it developed. Like it'd be different if like the Eagles just kept going up and down, like they get the ball at the 20 going up and down. It's like that's shocking, but it's like okay, they're just you seeing it, they're methodically moving the ball down the field. To Zoo's point, like the mistakes that Kansas City was making was just like I don't know if they underestimated the Eagles because the last time they played in the Super Bowl, that was a close game. So I don't know why they underestimated them.
Game. It went down to a field goal to end the game.
Like I don't know if they underestimated them or something. I've seen some people talk about we're going to hear more, and I don't believe this, but like more theories, something's going to come out, something in the locker room. But it's like I tend to think they just underestimated them. And to the point, it does speak to Mahomes' talent, which I know right now he's getting the Brady comparisons and like he's not Brady, but it does speak to him. Like, if we all watch football, just look at the rosters and be like, if you just look at if like 247 just go down these guys' high school and college rankings, it ain't really close talent wise. It's just really like you were having faith in because Mahomes is such a elite upper echelon quarterback, and Andy Reid is like a second to third ranked coach ever, is what we were weighing a lot of our analysis in. All of us was. Now, I did pick the Eagles too because of just talent. And I think one thing about the Eagles that I kind of didn't really take into factor, I was just thinking about how they were playing in the playoffs. Like I kept saying, like they're going to end up playing their A game sometime, right? But they've been really dominant the entire year. Mm-hmm. It's just the games that they lost or didn't play well and Hurts got hurt or other people were hurt.
Yep.
Like when Hurts was playing, they were dominant. Like they were beating Buffalo, but they were beating Baltimore. They were beating like top teams in the league and were beating them by a couple of scores. So it wasn't that I think a lot of it too is it was hard to trust a guy like Sirianni because you just think he is going to maybe do something within the flow of the game to mess up something and it's going to take the team off, and to how they ended last year in the playoffs. I just think it was, we didn't make it black and white. We tried to do whatever. It's just like, really, it's just a talent. It's just, they had more talent than Kansas City. Go ahead.
So, I mean, what I was to your Sirianni point, and this is something I wanted to bring up, was you said it perfectly, is Sirianni going to mess up the game?
Yeah.
So does this solidify your guys' take on Sirianni being a good coach, or do you think he's a beneficiary of his team?
I think he's a good coach. But, like, I think in the leader of men category, he's a good coach. Okay. I don't think he's next to those guys because obviously Kellen Moore just got a job with the Saints, and Vic Fangio, we see what he just did. Yep. But I also think to the leader of men part is he hired those guys, and you got to say he gave up a little bit of his ego. He's That's not. True. I don't think he was dabbling in the play calling. Yep. So to me, that speaks to your like a self-evaluation. You see, hey, last year, look how it ended with me maybe dabbling with, because I think Brian Johnson was a coordinator, like me dabbling with him, maybe doing too much. I took a step back. I hired a Kellen Moore guy who I'm very high on, and he got a head coaching job. And then Vic Fangio, I don't know how much of his doing was that, but he kind of was hands off. And to me, that's how I like my coaching staff to be. I want the head coach to be a leader of men, can push the right buttons, take timeouts, do whatever, and you hire your coordinators and they do their job. That's what I love to see. Because to me, that's ultimately like you wouldn't have the title of OC and DC if the guys are, if you're dabbling in, if you're a head coach. Now, there are special cases like Andy Reid, like he's calling the plays. But again, how many Andy Reids are there? It's not a lot. Yeah. So he's special. Like those type of, some of the like McVay, some of those, I wouldn't say prodigies, but guys who are upper echelon, elite, like head coaches, they can get away with that. But ideally, you want your head coach to be a head coach, your coordinator to coordinate. And I think you got to give him credit on that.
We're going to see his OC hiring this year. I think that's, to me, like if he can do it
Cliff
2
Kingsbury.
times in a row.
Yeah. If
he can do it 2 times in a row, I think that, I'm not saying they have to win back-to-back Super Bowls. But
I get what you're saying.
Successful offense that is flowing as well as it did towards especially the latter half of the year, to Sean's point about the injuries. When everybody's healthy, can you have a same flow of offense that you've had under an OC that got screwed, right? Had to accept a different OC job and probably did deserve a head coaching job.
He should be the coach of the Cowboys. What are we doing? What is Dallas doing, bro?
100%. But, he realized that he needed to make another leapfrog, prove himself one more time to get that head coaching job. We'll see if he can do it again. I'm curious to see what they do because I'm a little still – I'm not iffy on Sirianni, but I think the reason I made that comment was you literally said you were more worried about him messing it up rather than having a positive impact on the game. So is he truly a difference maker, or is he just kind of a good manager of the team, which there's no –
Yes,
that's not like a negative take. It's just kind of an opposite take of what you usually hear with the head coach.
Yeah, you just better. To your point, he just better be able to hire the right guys. You can't mess up the OC hires. I mean, he's gonna get some time. Like he's probably. I don't know. It's Philly. Philly's fickle. Like it could get weird I wouldn't be surprised in a year and a half he's on the hot seat because Philly is weird like that. Their fans are a little bit tougher than most.
True.
But just to expand on like. Philly, or not Philly, or did not expand, but go to Kansas City real quick. I think, too, this game kind of also exposed what they really need to address in the offseason. Like, we need to stop nickeling and dominant in the backfield. This draft has one of the most talent-rich running back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably 10 to 12 deep of, like, guys who could play day one. Go get you a stud. Go get you a guy and stop. I mean, Pacheco, I know he was hurt. He's coming off injury, but whatever. This maybe going to take a little bit longer. Kareem Hunt is way past due. Like Carson Steele was a moment in time. Like, stop. Like, get you a real guy in the backfield. Like, get you a real guy in the backfield. That's more so a complete back. And then you need to figure out the line because you are still talking about Patrick Mahomes, who is your franchise, and you can't have him getting splattered like he did in that Super Bowl game because I also think, too, we know the Eagles are super talented, and we know they're in a space where I don't think a lot of teams could have been able to slow them down. But like I said, teams are going to get better. And I also think about the but the conference they're in. They're in the AFC. So a lot of these teams that are on that side of the conference, they have guys at quarterback that can play. So you're going to maybe want to have a situation where Mahomes is protected. He's still able to compete at a high level. I mean, I don't know what the rumors are, but you may want to maybe look at athletic tight end that maybe can be an understudy for Kelsey. I don't think he retires this year, but maybe next year is possible. There are some things that they need to work on, and I think it's just a classic situation of maybe they bought into their own hype, and you don't think that would happen with the Patrick Mahomes-led team because, I mean, he's kind of been dialed in every Super Bowl he's been in. But side note, it is kind of funny because there was a lot of NBA and NFL comparisons being made. It's like one guy, and he was an Eagles fan, but he was like, yo, guys, seriously, who the hell has Patrick Mahomes beaten in the Super Bowl? Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, like, come on, like you guys thought he was going to beat Jalen Hurts, and it's like he was just kind of boosting up his guy. But it's like that is a good point. Like,
it's true.
I mean, he was going against the defenses, but it's like it will be interesting to see in like a Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts now and other guys that come up, like how Patrick performs when there's another dog on the other side. Because I think that is a little thing. That is a thing.
No. I'm not gonna let you go there with it. He hasn't played a good. To make the Super Bowl, he had to beat MVP caliber quarterbacks.
In the game, not me. That's what the guy was saying. In the game, like you're not challenged if you're playing Brock. You're not scared of Brock Purdy. And you're not scared of Jimmy G. Jimmy G is he on a roster?
He's scared of any other quarterback. I think he's scared of a defense's O-line not being protected. Like Lamar
his
Jackson,
O-line, it is.
He played Lamar Jackson in his MVP year and he beat him.
Yeah.
He played Josh Allen in his confirmed now MVP season and
Joe
beat
Burrow.
him. Like he beat MVP.
Joe Burrow has the one on him. Yeah. Joe
And
Burrow has
Mahomes
the one on him.
in that game he didn't play that well, but he's beating MVP caliber quarterbacks. Not gonna lie,
Yes.
I feel like Mahomes rises to the occasion when he plays against a perspective like this guy is a direct competitor to me and getting compared to me, and he steps up even more. While against these other quarterbacks, like I just don't think it's the same. Like every time he plays an MVP caliber quarterback, this guy balls.
So he disrespects Hurts, is what you're saying.
I'm not gonna say he disrespects him. He just Jalen.
He sure disrespected him.
I'm just saying nobody putting Jalen Hurts in the MVP conversation. That's all I got to say.
No, he's not in the MVP conversation. But I think, dude, and it's not Mahomes. I think the team. People just don't respect, and this is like to your point about Hurts. Like he showed in that game, he really does rise to the occasion in big moments. I just think people, again, and everybody falls victim to this. It's not just us on this podcast or the random person down the street. Everybody falls victim to physical attributes of quarterbacks. Like everybody who's a Lamar fan loves his legs and his ability to escape and make throws. Everybody loves Josh bruteness and how he's able to run people over and maybe take a 45-yard run. Everybody loves Joe Burrow stepping up into the pocket and making crazy throws while he's getting draped on, like his arm talent, right? How he places and layers the ball. Everybody gets enamored with that. But I think with Jalen, he doesn't have all those traits. He's 6'1". Now, the one thing that's his calling card is the tush push, that's like his calling card,
he's strong.
which is very effective. Like he's super strong. That's probably his calling card. He's a super strong quarterback. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, Zhu, like he has shown that he's like kind of gotten past the point of, okay, I'm just a game manager. Like, I think that's why I kind of was just annoyed with when, like, you guys made the comparison about Brock Purdy. It's like, I don't see, like, I know the teams are similar, but Jalen talent, he's way, way, way more talented than Purdy. And like, and not even this, like, talent wise, like, I think he's way more talented, but even as a leader and like being just, you got to think about the guys on that team, like dealing with and I know everybody has a diva receiver, but like dealing with AJ Brown, dealing with that head coach. I think that's why him and Sirianni work, because they're both like, they're like ice and water, or like ice and fire. Like Sirianni's the fire coach and Jalen is the temperament. And like I said, I follow college football. Like when he got benched at Alabama, people were like, okay, like, is he going to be like a running back? Is he going to be a fullback? Like if he think he's going to go to Lincoln Riley, like they were like, Lincoln Riley's taking him. Like everybody's like, that's crazy. But Lincoln Riley, who he's been suspect at USC in terms of overall getting the team to the playoff, which he can't do, which is insane because he's the state university coach in California and just can't get enough talent. But that's beside the point. He knows quarterbacks. And he picked Jalen during that year when he could have picked a lot of other guys. So to me, it's just been an ascension. So I do think it's a little bit, and I can't be mad at Mahomes if you're looking across the table and it's like, Jalen Hurts, I know you played me tough. Like, bro, I got 3. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, classic.
But yeah, and that's why it's like, I always say this stuff about these quarterbacks when they have these games and like momentum shifts. Is anybody confusing Jalen Hurts with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar? No. But if you're an Eagles fan, you can sit up and make some arguments. You can start arguing. Like if I'm a Jalen Hurts fan, Josh Allen fans, Lamar fans, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. I don't care how many MVPs you got. Do not talk to me because you had the biggest game. Yeah. And when he's been in the biggest games, we have played tough. Now, like I said, if one of those guys get a Super Bowl appearance, then Jalen, cool.
Burrow's
like,
the only one I think is a tough argument just because
he
played well.
Very tough.
And
he did play well in his Super Bowl. He did. It's just kind of Matt Stafford barely outplayed him.
Beat Mahomes, right? I think
that's why I told you it's kind of he does have a little bit of a he can walk in the room with a little aura, even though, and it's weird because he does have an MVP, and I know he's played the Super Bowl, but it's like he's
the number of times he missed the playoffs too.
That's he's missed a couple.
Yeah, who's the guy in his prime of his career consistently missing the playoffs and not getting an opportunity.
I think also people think it's. I think people kind of give him a break because it's Cincinnati, and they're just such a bad run franchise.
This year, I'm just like, you lost to the Patriots. You don't deserve to make it to the playoffs.
No, you should have lost the game early in the year. You're right. With the talent, you just can't. You can't have that happen.
He played bad. I remember that he played really, really bad.
But Zoo, let's also be honest that even if he did win that Patriots game and made the playoffs, snuck in, he's not going far with that defense.
Yeah, defense. It has to be an offense. Yeah,
right. And I think that leads me to my one point. This is the best team that Mahomes has had to play in the playoffs overall since the 2018 Patriots. And that's the last team he lost to.
Yeah,
I know he lost to the Bucks.
I'm skimming, but
No, I know. But other major loss that is overall the best team that dominated. I know they only won by
they lost in overtime. They lost in overtime.
Game in overtime. Yeah,
it was a tie game.
The Bengals, they just
the Bengals game. Mahomes played really bad in the second half.
Right,
like,
the second half killed him.
He was awful.
And I'm taking out his performance in it. I think I'm just saying, like, you take the talent of every team that he's played in the playoffs. I think the second best, or you could argue they're interchangeable here, is the 2018 Patriots and the 2024 Eagles. I think those are the two best teams he's played. Those have been the two most brutal losses. You pointed out the offensive line issues in the Bucks game. I 100% that will switch.
That one I don't put on Mahomes at all, in my opinion. Like, this game is completely on him. 100% his fault.
This game, right? So 100%. I take the Bucks game out just because that was not 100% on him.
It was not the team that made it. Like,
it was not the team that made it, but they got out. They've only been outclassed, sure, at different levels multiple times, and it's been to Tom Brady and the Patriots and Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. And I think we just have to give credit to Howie and the ownership staff. We have to give
he gets all the credit for building this roster.
This is probably one of the most well-built teams we've seen in the last 20 years. I mean, you could put up maybe
I think it's a top 10 or 5 Super Bowl team.
Wow.
I think it's in the top 10 for sure.
The only other team, Sean, like, maybe you'd agree here, or Zoo, like, some of the Big Ben teams might rival it because they had such a good offense and they had an unbelievable defense at the same time. Like, the Ravens, when they had a great defense, did not have a prolific offense.
The Flacco Super Bowl or the
like
Trent Dilfer Super Bowl is
the like, offense was solid, but they weren't, like, unbelievable. But if you look at every team that Mahomes has played, or even, most Super Bowl teams, this team, man, is dominant on every level. You're talking about a young pass rush outside of Brandon Graham, which I mentioned earlier. The best, if not top 2 O-line in the league. You have an unbelievable secondary. That is also extremely young. 2 rookies on the outside, along with one of the best veteran corners in the league. Solid safeties. Arguably a guy that should have been up for Defensive Player of the Year in Zach Bond at middle linebacker, leading the league in tackles. You have the best running back in the league. You have 2 legitimate outside weapons, and you have a solid top 10, top 8 tight end, and you have a top 7 quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's
right there.
I think top 5. I'm out.
There, that could
get a top 10, 7.
You could argue that's a top 10 Super Bowl team of all time.
Yeah,
that's why it speaks to Mahomes, man. We just was blinded by him and Reed.
No,
because if we just look at the numbers, the Eagles.
Only one person here was blinded by Patty Mahomes here in this year, man. Come on.
But this
I was blinded. I remember having this conversation when we're talking, breaking it down, like the rosters, right? Like, just actually look at the rosters. I'm like, I remember I told you, I give you all the other positions. The pass rush, the offensive line, the running back. I'm gonna take the head coach and I'm gonna take the quarterback in. What happened? The coach got out coached and the quarterback got outplayed. So if all that happens, an absolute massacre.
Slaughter.
An absolute massacre, because the only 2 strong points I thought was going into the Super Bowl, they got completely outclassed.
Yeah,
like completely.
The scheme and the play. Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like obviously, like Andy Reid, he's like a genius for getting easy plays for his like players and getting like, scheming people wide open. I didn't see any of that. I did not see any of that in this game. So I don't know what happened. Like, Fangio, maybe it's his kryptonite or whatever. Like, just watching that game, I just didn't recognize this, like, especially on the offensive side of the football. They couldn't get a first down. They could not get they couldn't get to that midfield line. Like,
they couldn't get past the 50. Yeah.
It was embarrassing because if you looked at all the other playoff contenders that played against the Eagles, relatively a lot closer games. Like the Rams game, they were one pass away from beating this Eagles team. And Matthew Stafford was playing in like a snowstorm. Like, if I remember.
The Commanders.
Yeah, the Commanders even, like, they were pretty effective, and obviously they had some fumbling issues that cost them, but they were moving the ball against this same defense significantly better, and that's a rookie quarterback. And I was watching that game, I'm like, they were moving it up pretty easily. Like, pretty easily.
Football is still the sport. It's like quarterback play, obviously, on any level. It could be JV, NFL. Quarterback matters. Head coaching matters, right? But it's still a sport because of, it's 11 guys on one side, 11 guys on the other. It still does matter. The sum of your parts have to be, like, if they're so elite, we've seen it just in history. Like, you just talking about Peoples, the Ravens. It's like Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco, like those quarterbacks, like, respect to those guys. Their playoff Joe was a thing at one point, and Trent Dilfer was adequate. But it's like the sum of the parts around those Ravens teams were so elite because they're also one of the more revered front offices. They usually always put good players, like, have good draft picks and do well, putting those guys in positions to win. But the sum of the parts sometimes is hard to overcome for the other guy. Like in the NBA, it don't matter if you got two stars. If you just got guys who can dribble and catch a lob, like, you can probably get to the finals. But in the NFL, it still is a game of physicality. It's a game of, like, is my guy faster than you? Is my guy stronger than you? And like I said, if you look at the Chiefs, man, like you said, like, D-Hop looks like he's on his last leg. Marquise Brown coming off injury. I mean, Juju shoot, like, come on, no. Travis Kelce kind of being up and down. That is probably the biggest, like, and to me, it's like, I know Tyreek has been a headache and Travis Kelce is still that dude, but it's like, I think if you switch, I think right now, if you ask Patrick Mahomes with no cameras in the room and no recorders, he would take Tyree and switch him out for Travis tomorrow. He would do it. Because Travis looks like a guy that's, I don't know if he's disinterested or he's just, like you said, it's tight end. The thing with tight end is he's getting beat up. It's a tough position. Like, I know he's not a blocker, but you're still dealing around the line of scrimmage. So you can get beat up to a point where, okay, my body's betraying me a little bit. So that could be a possibility. But this is called a spade a spade. Like, their defense is nice. I mean, McDuffie's a great corner, but you saw what AJ Brown was cooking him.
Like, watching that, I was like, I remember this is one of the few defensive players I actually know the names of. So you got to be decently good. And AJ Brown was just massacring.
Chris Jones was okay. He was okay. He had moments.
He had moments, but the whole line did well against the pass rush. So, like, they couldn't get to Hurts.
Spagnuolo's scheme. I'm curious to see, like, no one's really talked about that. The sense of, like, that was one of the reasons why they lost. But we're harping on literally every level of the defense. I mean, I'm not saying Goddard had an unbelievable game, but they were getting pretty wide open
he made some key catches.
Wide open
at all three levels. I mean, you're talking about short passes, medium level, and the deep ball. Like, for example, they're down 27-0. The Eagles have the ball at the Chiefs' 47-yard line or something like that. They had zero thought that they would throw the ball there. In my mind, I'm not saying I would have been like, oh, they're going to go for it all here on 1st and 10.
Yeah.
They have nothing to lose. They're just trying to kill you. You need to be prepared for anything. And you're going to let a 6 foot, 180 pound, literally my dimensions almost down to the pound, is going to beat you and put the dagger in you. You cannot let that happen. I know you're already down 27. Maybe you don't think that's a difference. We've seen teams come back from worse. Yes, they could have made decisions earlier on in the game that maybe at that point it would have been a closer game. But something like as simple as that, being prepared for outside of what you're expecting is part of being a coach. And Spagnuolo has been an unbelievable D coordinator for years, especially this year in some crucial games. And he's not getting any flack. I mean, it's interesting. It's all
because everybody's focusing on him. containing Saquon. But like, no, you contain Saquon. Congratulations, but that's 25% of the test. Like,
barely
to the other 75%. Like, you got to have account for that. But again, like we talk about the talent on the team, but that still circles back to Jalen. Like, I think he shut a lot of people up. Like, even me in a space where I've been a Jalen fan, and I just hated the narrative around. I do understand the narrative around the team being so talented, but I do think the leadership thing, like we talked about with Sirianni, like a leader of men, I do think the leadership aspect does matter. And I think people say, well, if you put Jalen Hurts in the Panthers, talent-wise, it's not as good, but I think he can maybe muster them to the playoffs because of just his leadership ability. Is a reason why people forget it. It is a reason why he got taken in the second round when Carson Wentz was at his high. That, like, I don't know why people, that does not happen unless he goes into interview rooms and blows their socks off. Yeah. So that means the leadership thing is just not a figure of speech. No, that's a real thing. And I think the team, when you get a guy that you want to play for, they were kind of talking about this with Texas this year. Like, I know Texas in the playoffs, they ended up losing to, I can't remember who it was, but they lost. And people were talking about how talented Quinn Ewers was, but people were more excited for Arch Manning. And of course, he's a Manning, but also it's like guys, he acts like a regular dude and guys want to play for him. He just acts like the dude. And it's like when you get guys who maybe will play above their head, it matters. So like, just to spin it forward, the Eagles schedule, I was looking at Monday, and I was like, the schedule looks crazy. But if like, it would be I won't say a miracle because they're still super talented. And they, like I said, they still could make some moves in offseason. Like, they said Josh Sweat's going to probably go to free agency. Like, they can make some moves with some guys. I'll just put it that way. But, boy, I tell you, if the Eagles get back somehow, boy, it's going to be some uncomfortable conversations about quarterbacks in this league. I'm telling you. It's going to get real uncomfortable.
Better watch out for Ben Johnson there, Sean.
It's going to get – I'm just saying, it's going to get weird, man. Because the thing is, everybody now – in your NFC, people are gonna be like, well, we got to get this. You better, if you're on the NFC, your checklist needs to be offensive lineman and defensive lineman. Everybody else can wait in the 4th and 5th round because the Eagles, everybody on that side outside of maybe Sweat, like who was that guy? It was like a Mitchell guy for the Eagles. It was like a late round pick that was making like sacks too.
Milton.
Who are these guys? Like Jalen Carter didn't even have his biggest game. It was like a bunch of reserve guys just making plays. So it's like, because you better have that settled.
I think they prepared for all these big name guys that have been making all this stuff, and they just neglected the above average players that can open up the entire game for them because you're only focusing on Jalen Carter and Josh Sweat. I know Sweat.
And it's hard to win 3. And it's hard to win 3. Nobody's done it. So it may be the emotion of that. Maybe it's just too much. But I did say last pod, if you thought the football Illuminati was going to let Tom Brady see Patrick win 3, you got another thing coming. Like, come on, man. That's not happening.
Man, stop it.
He sold to that Illuminati. They're not Holmes win that? Come on, bro.
He's involved with both of them, man. He's involved with both losses, man.
Come on.
Man, stop it.
Zoo, I don't know what other evidence you need to see, man.
Patrick just played like ass, man. Mahomie played like ass. The offensive line didn't play good, and the defense absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Like the Eagles were just the better team.
Yeah, I agree. And then you add in the fact that, to your point earlier, aging running back, potentially hobbled running back. We got to see how that plays out. They don't have a future at tight end. Potentially, we'll see what Kelsey does. But even if Kelsey comes back, I still don't think they have a good future at tight end. Chris Jones is getting up there. They've chosen him over multiple players, as we talked about the last couple of weeks as well, when it comes to free agent signings. Your D-line is therefore going to be in question because, let's be honest, even though they didn't make an effect on the Eagles, Chris Jones allows other guys to get to the quarterback, whether it be pressures, sacks, or just QB hits, right? And then, sure, you got Trent McDuffie. Give me another guy. I don't know about those other guys that were getting absolutely cooked by Devontae Smith.
I don't know any other corner. Yeah.
And Jahan Dotson. Come on, man. Number 35.
I can't get over the go route, man.
You can't give it up. So,
so easy.
All my point is, and you add into the fact that how much longer is Andy Reid going to be there?
I think he'll still be there until he's going to pull a Bill Belichick. At least
2-3 years.
Yeah, like early 70s at least.
How old is he? He's got to be around 70.
He's been in the league for a while now.
I guarantee he's at least 70
He's 66 right now.
66. All right, so
I think he got a good at least. I'm giving him a good at least 5 years.
5 years. Depends how many cheeseburgers the man's eat. I agree with you, man. But my point is, I don't think they're a lock to maintain a
Final Four.
All right, I'm going to say this right now.
I would not talking about AFC Championship game. No. Be playing in that game.
I would not be surprised if they don't make a Super Bowl for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
No, what?
Yeah,
they don't make a Super Bowl.
Just making it.
Yep.
I'm not. Listen, you got to also think too. Like I know, and I just said this, so I'm going against my whole point. But it's like there is a lot of talented quarterbacks in the AFC. So eventually, one of these guys, Josh, Lamar, Joe, somebody's going to beat them.
They're going to beat them eventually.
And then I feel like once whoever breaks that little, I guess, invisible ceiling, then it might be a situation where the next guy who was like, because let's just say Josh beats him and then Lamar does, and it's like everybody focuses on Lamar, and then it's like, well, no, Josh just broke the ceiling, so it could be Lamar's turn. Like that can motivate him to win it, and then CJ, like it could be a chance because there's so many talented quarterbacks. It'd be different if it was more like now the NFC has got guys coming up, but it'd be different if it was like it's really just one or two quarterbacks you got to like worry about. Like with Tom Brady, it was like he ain't got to worry about nobody in his division. I mean, who was he worried about in the AFC? Yeah, so it's like you got one guy in Peyton. If you dominate him, you're good. Like there's way more talented quarterbacks, so it's just more of a chance. It's a variable. And too, if we really looked at the Chiefs season, like me and people were kind of talking about, they were squeaking games by. They wasn't really ever dominating games. So that kind of tells you, like, okay, they're pulling back to the pack a little bit. It's just, again, we all were blinded by Reed and Mahomes. But now, with the Eagles looking them in the eye and said, we don't care nothing about all that three-peat stuff. You're done for now. Like I said, it's the same thing we were talking about with, like, the Denver Nuggets are a perfect example. When Jokic won that championship, we were like, 3-4 more years. They'll make the playoffs this year, but they're not looked at as a favorite. It happens quickly in a lot of these leagues. Now, football is different because it's one game and you have Mahomes. But the thing is, Mahomes is going against, as much as they lose to Mahomes, those are still dogs they're going against. Like, those are dogs. And sometimes it just takes one chance for you to get. If you break that ceiling, then it can happen. Then your dominance is over. It's a reason why. We comparing, like, and I love Mahomes, but the Brady comparison, what he did is, again, he sold his soul. I'm telling you, like, that ain't happening. That's not happening. Like, Mahomes is not getting
Let's take it easy now.
He's not getting 7 Super Bowls. Stop.
Let's take it easy now. We got to give him time because right now, based on his years of
experience, he's 30.
He's 3-2 in Super Bowl appearances. Tom Brady in his first 5 Super Bowls, he's 3-2. So he's on the trajectory.
And he had a 10-year drought, didn't he? He had how long did he go in between?
He went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. He still made it too.
Mahomes do that. He's 40. If he does that, he's 40. So people may have a point. Like, it's just a lot of talented quarterbacks.
11 years not making Super Bowl. Is that a wager?
No. I'm just saying I would not be surprised. That's what I'm saying.
Give me a percentage you think that would happen. Like,
I would be if he doesn't make it, just make it to the Super Bowl in the next 5 years.
And that has nothing to do with him. It has to do with the team.
That's kind of my point too. And the guys he's going against. Like,
it's who he's going against and who he has on his side. He's losing. Yeah. He is about to lose the best historical player on his team. And
Travis Kelce, that will be a massive blow. Yeah.
And 100%. Chris Jones. I mean, those are the two staples, positional players.
Yep.
On both sides, the anchors of your teams are about to retire. I mean, you're talking about having to replace him and start from scratch. Chris Jones was not the player that he is the last 3-4 years. It took him a while to get there.
And he had that knee brace on. He was taking it off. It kind of looked crazy, yeah.
And even Travis Kelce, it took a little longer to get there as
well. He looks cooked. Like, he's probably got one more. It looked bad. He just was not moving well. And I don't know if he was injured. And
then you add in that, like, I get it. They have 2 great weapons on the outside. I love their young receivers. I do have to see Rasheed Rice come off the injury. Very curious to see how that goes. And that's the only reason I'm not making the bet right now, Zoo, is actually on the Rasheed Rice. And we don't know the retirement statuses of those 2 guys yet. But in a 5-year window, both of those guys are 100% gone, right? We don't know, Xavier Worthy, Rasheed Rice, do they mesh well? Who knows? But that's 3 good players, man. And then you add in Trent McDuffie. I mean, he just got cooked in the Super Bowl, man. So, I mean, I just don't see the star-studdedness as you do on a team like I'm curious to see how the Bengals do. I really want to see what they do with Chase Brown.
The defense is going to be the story.
That's fine.
Problem is,
the defense just a little bit. They could be.
Okay. Let's take this right now. You take Chris Jones and Travis Kelce off those teams. Who has the better talent on the roster? The Bengals or the Chiefs?
The Bengals.
There you go.
It's not close. Like, I think the Bengals still have Hendrickson, don't they?
Yeah.
On defense, and I don't know who else they got. And then their receiver talent, even though they're losing T, but they don't have Jamar Chase.
I'm not saying it's like this, but it might be more like this, even when it used to be Chiefs above, right? Bills, right? You throw that in there. Hell, let's look at how are the Texans going to continue moving on in their progression.
And too, with Baltimore, Ravens. Like, I know they didn't make it. You know, they got beat by the Bills, but I don't know how that game goes if Zay Flowers is healthy. That's maybe another option.
I'm burned by Zay Flowers. I'm off Zay Flowers.
And I don't want to say I don't like Zay Flowers, but you guys know I don't really rock for Zay Flowers. But it's like
I'm the Zay Flower guy on this podcast.
I'm not really a Zay guy. I'm just saying, who knows?
I just think he's a game changer as a receiver.
Like I just think it's like also I'm factoring motivation for like the other guys. Like even though Josh won his MVP or whatever. Like Lamar has his MVP, and Joe Burrow wins his Super Bowl.
They need at least one Super Bowl.
They're so competitive. They want to get there. So I do think, not saying Mahomes is going to be lackadaisical, but I also think some of the teams, like you saw their body language on the sideline, like nobody was out of sorts. And I kind of think it's because one, they were just probably shell shocked they're getting beat this bad, but also two, like I do think it factors in complacency of like, well, we've already gotten two. Like Mahomes is probably the only guy who probably in the front-facing media he was okay, but at home he was probably screaming his head off like, what the hell just happened?
Oh, Mahomes, he trying to be the GOAT. So every single jewelry he got to line up. Because like the rest of his teammates, they're all nice players. Like they accomplished a lot already. Like if you look at your football career,
especially Kelce,
making a Hall of Fame, like what else do you have to prove? Like Mahomes is the only guy that got stuff to prove because that guy you're going for got a whole lot of.
It's jewelry. LeBron and Jordan, man. That's what it is.
It is.
No, I think it's just a further gap. Brady has 7. And Mahomes, if Mahomes got to 7, the argument still would be, well, I mean, Brady at 40 went to another team and like Brady's his like argument for it's kind of almost
didn't only do it with Andy Reid.
The Tampa Bay championship, that was
if he would have got one over if Mahomes would have got just one over Brady, that would have changed it.
Second only to the 28-3 comeback. Come on, man.
Wait, what was it? What was it?
Super Bowl. The 28-3 comeback is better than the Bucs Super Bowl.
No, I'm talking about what he did, switching franchises during a COVID year and bragging.
It's incredible.
Tampa Bay team that had no history of winning and pretty much just.
They won before that. I mean, they Dungy
in the modern era.
He did do a little LeBron recruiting there, though.
Oh yeah.
Gruden won.
That's to Tom Brady's greatness. He's a master recruiter too. I know you don't like recruiting. No, recruiting is a skill. I wish Derrick Rose in his prime had recruiting skills. I love Kurt Covert getting on a phone and making a phone call because he got Gronkowski, he got Antonio Brown.
It's crazy.
Like recruiting matters.
Absolutely, it does. And you got to sell it.
He worked on and off the field and got crewed up and won a Super Bowl in his first year with this Tampa Bay franchise. It's his greatest achievement.
But, man, if Kermit the Frog is calling me, I'm not going to that team, man. Let me just tell you, man.
Yes, Brady. He is the all-American quarterback of what you want. So it's just he just did everything that you.
Yeah, I love that. My quarterback recruit. Hell yeah, man. He's working. He's like, oh, you want to play catch? He's recruiting already.
That's why it speaks to Jalen. Like when he got AJ Brown, they're best friends. But it's like I'm pretty sure still you had to, because at that point Jalen Hurts wasn't really proven yet when AJ Brown got there. No. But like AJ Brown trusted him because I guess he looked at him as a friend, and it's like, okay, I think this guy can get it done. And I think Jalen, as his friend, kind of had to sell him on that. But also too, it also speaks to your point. I think people just brought this up. We can close it out. Like the management. I think it tells you how much they rock with Jalen based on how they treated the stars around him and surrounded him with stuff. Yeah. I think how they did that just proves again what his character is. Because Carson Wentz, what might we forget? Like he was in an MVP year, and in that next year coming in, I think got injured, whatever happened. But they didn't surround Carson like they did with Jalen at all. It's not even close. So, and Carson did have issues. They talk about he wasn't really a locker room guy, but
that's the thing. He had none of the intangibles. Like Jalen got all the intangibles.
Yeah, he's been his road has been insane. Like he likes to get benched at Bama for Tua, and like nobody would ever thought coming out of Bama that he was going to be a better quarterback than Tua. But like when I first saw him in the NFL, and I kind of saw like he looks like because like I said, that throw he threw to Devontae, like not a lot of quarterbacks are making that throw. That's an incredible throw.
You got that Russell Wilson deep ball. Like you got a beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Can we I know it was garbage time and all that, but that Mahomes throw to Worthy at the end of the game was insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
He barely moved. I know he had a bad game. And that was just an absolute effort throw, but that was beautiful. And it was literally just a slightly longer version of the Devontae Smith throw. Yeah. It was literally like mirrored.
That's why people I get why they try to I know he's being compared to Brady, but it's like I get just from an individual player standpoint, Mahomes is a way better player than Brady. I get it. So it's just Brady's more accomplished, but it's like just individually looking at a player like that type of he barely moved on it, and that thing
he's more cerebral.
He's a better athlete.
He's more cerebral than Mahomes, and Mahomes is way more athletic than Brady. And they just it almost like, in my opinion, it balances out. Because he was talking about it, but there's no one that processed the game better than Tom Brady, and that's what made him.
And to your point about the processing, what are we doing when we're down 24-0 going into the half, and then we start the third quarter, and we're still trying to do chunk plays? What are we seeing on the field where we have enough time to sit back and make a bunch of deep crossing routes or go? Like, what are we doing? That to your point, where was the adjustments? Yep. So I don't know if that was Mahomes or Andy, but they both take fault for that.
Mahomes has to realize he's 30 years old. He's one of the best quarterbacks that the league has ever seen. You can make changes at the line. Andy Reid is not always going to be the best person to read the play. Mahomes, you got to be able to make checks at the line because that's how you beat teams. That's how you mess with them. It wouldn't have made a difference in this game.
No.
Consider going forward.
Would have scored 7 and then Philadelphia went down and probably scored again. But I don't know. Matchups happen. You know, people get shocked. I think we all were shocked. Sure. And I do think that, would I be shocked if this was the Super Bowl next year? Maybe so, but I don't know. Like I said, Mahomes dominates everybody else. I almost think this might motivate Mahomes a little bit more because I think he's hearing the chatter like, yeah, we're 1-1, but really, Jalen has outplayed him in both. So it's kind of like, that bothers. I think that's going to bother him a little bit. He's going to come with a vengeance. He's going to want to come back.
And the thing is, he is the reason they lost. It's not like he threw for 400 yards like the Tom Brady game against the Eagles.
Yep.
In a game where he was lights out, the defense couldn't stop anything, and Nick Foles lit them up. Like, Tom Brady, I can sleep at night. Like, my defense didn't get it done. This game, Mahomes didn't get it done. It was his worst game ever this year. It was horrendous.
The second interception was just
I hope he gets no sleep because I got no sleep the day after either. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, my goodness.
He let a lot of people down for sure. Got to make that more of a competitive game. But horrendous. NFL season is officially in the books. Like I said, draft be coming up April. It's April, right? Is it draft?
Sir.
A lot of coverage going to be coming on that. I probably would say March. I guess the combine probably starts. Is it February or March the combine starts? I think it might be February.
Might be late February.
Into February. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at who are going to be the new stars, quarterback, running back, receiver, whatever, defensive side of the ball. So you guys tune in for that. As you guys know, NBA season is about to go into All-Star break. We'll be kicking up high gear with all these trades and kind of catching up on how teams are going to look, how they're going to finish, who may be tanking, who may not. Hope you guys are looking on our podcast page because I'll start posting a bunch of content NBA-wise to just kind of promote what the storylines are going to be in the second half. So make sure you tune in to Tyson Talks on Instagram. Make sure you tune into our channel, Quantro Knows, on YouTube. Make sure when you listen to our audio mediums, it's Spotify and Apple Music. And for me, Zhu and P. Bush, we are out.